It's great that there's such an amazing turnout and that they had to bring in more tables and chairs. This is fantastic for the community to have this many people interested in the future of this community. One of the things that I did do before I came here, and I wish I would have thought of this last night, I would have printed out more copies. But on my website, which is kylemla.ca, you could go, there's a tab called Public Engagement, and under there's a section called Archives. And one of the things that I did probably a few years back was host a roundtable discussion on inner city renewal. And from that developed a draft discussion paper on that from a provincial perspective. Now I know that most of the renewal of cities and communities in those cities are in the purview of the municipal government, and I know the alderman or councillor, city councillor it is now, Sean Chu is here, but the province does have a role as well. We are a significant funder of the city. We do provide significant lottery grants to communities for renewal of public infrastructure and community infrastructure through the lottery program, as well as we are the entity or the government that regulates municipalities through the Municipal Government Act. In fact, there's two opportunities provincially to try to understand what the challenges are for inner city communities as they renew and transition, to make sure that those are included within the provincial legislation, and that is the big city charter that's being worked on between the two cities and the Minister of Municipal Affairs. As well as right now we're undertaking an extensive and comprehensive review of the Municipal Government Act that will result in changes or an overhaul of that piece of legislation as well. In here, there was essentially 4 broad recommendations that came out, and I think it's important, and I do want to read them out. I think that it's important for our discussion here today. And one of those discussions, and remember, this was done probably 4 years ago, back in 2010 or so. One of the recommendation was a big city charter for Calgary and Edmonton with unique powers, responsibilities, and authorities. Delegation of certain formalized decision-making and/or input at the community level through the establishment of community councils or more formal recognition of community associations or residents associations. The allocation of authority and resources to older inner city communities to develop specific community transition plans, area development or renewal plans within the context of provincial and municipal strategic plans and priorities, and different funding models that maximize the impact and flexibility for communities while providing for greater accountability and that recognizes that there is only one taxpayer, no matter who collects or spends the money. I think that the importance here is that, and what is reflected in this discussion paper, one of the things that I've always been a huge proponent of is that communities need to be in control of their own destiny. The fact is that we're changing. These communities are changing. And we can either resist the change and not be a part of that, or we can embrace that and be in control of our own destiny. And I think that's very, very important for some of these older communities that are starting to transition. And I live in the constituency, I live in Mount Pleasant. There's a community that's well on its way in transitioning as far as the number of houses, new developments being put in. You can't go a block without 2 or 3 new developments going in. And it poses some challenges, certainly, but it also poses some significant opportunities. And it's very, very important. And so I believe my role as an MLA, as your representative, and I believe the role of the council at the provincial government and the councillor's role for at the municipal level is to support you guys in that. Is to make sure that our governments understand what it is that your community needs, what is it that your community desires, what is it that you envision for your community, and how can we support that for you. Too often, too many times, in my opinion, governments have this overarching control and which doesn't allow communities to insert their own voice into the process. So that's what I think is very, very important about this process. That's why I'm very, very encouraged as to see the turnout that we have here today. Now, I know there are a number of opportunities and challenges in these communities in Highland Park and Thorncliffe, Greenview, around a couple of different projects. What I think is important is that we don't get caught back down in the detail of those projects, but think at a much broader level about what it is that these communities want moving forward. And remember, these communities aren't going to look the same in 10, 15, 20 years as they did 10, 15, 20 years ago. So if that's what we want to have the conversation about, is how do we, continue to keep the community the way that it was, I think that we're losing we're fighting a losing battle. So the importance is to embrace change, be the champion of that change, and to make sure that we as community members, as you as community members, and we as your representatives are going in the right direction with that change. And I think what you'll see is a community that starts to turn around and make sure that people, and it'll be a community where people want to come here to raise their family. And that's really the hallmark of a community. Do people want to move here to raise their family? Do they see this as a desirable community? And there's really three things that lead to that, in my opinion. It has to be safe. People need to feel comfortable walking through their neighborhood and their streets. It has to have public amenities, and it has to be an affordable place to live. So if we can consider those three things and see how we as your representatives can work with you as a community to spearhead that change, I think that's a very, very positive thing, and I think this event is a great place to start. So thank you very much for taking time on your Saturday evening to care about your community and be a part of that process.